Jai.
All right. You're becoming world famous. Everyone's hearing you reading the Bhagavatam, Krishna Chandra.
Oh, well, I shouldn't want to be famous, but I'm very it gives me a lot of happiness to do it every time.
Well, one who glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the goddess of fortune, of which fame is one of the attributes of Lakshmi,
Mm,
always follows close behind.
Jai.
She's always nearby when we're glorifying Krishna. So whether we
Wonderful.
like it or not, devotees who glorify Krishna, get a little bit of fame.
Mm. that
Okay, here we are.
explains how
That,
everybody knew Srila Prabhupada and everybody
yeah.
and its
Um,
associates.
Number seven. Okay. So I'm gonna sing through it once. I guess I'll sing through it twice, but if you want to sing along, then you just have to mute yourself, okay?
No problem, Prabhu. Thanks.
Vitarasi dikshurane dikpati kamaniyam dasamukamole balim ramaniyam Kesavadrita Rama Sharira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Vitarasi Dikshurane Dikpati Kamaniyam Muktasamukhamole balim ramaniyam Kesavadrita rahama sharira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Vitarasi dikshurane dikpati kamaniyam Dasamukhamoli balim ramaniyam Kesavadrita rahama sharira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Vitarasi Dikshurane Dikpati Kamaniyam Dasamukhamoli balim ramaniyam Kesavadrita Rama Sharira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare. So, reading from the translation of Jayadev Goswami's Dasha Avatar, which is taken from the Gita Govinda, um, this translates as uh, let's see, where are we now? Number seven. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Ramacandra, all glories to you. In the battle of Lanka, you destroy the 10-headed demon Ravan and distribute his heads as a delightful offering to the presiding deities of the 10 directions headed by Indra. This action was long desired by all of them who were much harassed by this monster. Jai Rupanuga Prabhu, my obeisances to you. Thank
Oh,
you very much for coming. When you hear this translation of Jayadev Goswami's glorification of Lord Rama, and in all the classes you've heard of Srila Prabhupada glorifying Krishna and Rama, Does anything, do you have any recollection of the description here, how Lord Ramachandra destroyed Ravana, and um, and how everyone was quite uh, oppressed by the harassment of this monster? I was just wondering if you have any thoughts on that before we proceed.
No, I'm just waiting for the reading. I'm trying to get the audio fixed here.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so in terms of what we read last time, we were reading that Lord Maharaj Dasharat, he had been the son of Aja, and the son of Dasharat, of course, was Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when the Lord descended into this world in his full quadruple expansion as Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna, then great sages like Valmiki, who were actually in knowledge of the absolute truth, described his transcendental pastimes. So Shukadev Goswami summarizes everything really nicely, and he explains that when Lord Ramachandra went with Vishvamrita, the sage, and he killed Rakshashas like Marich, after breaking the very strong bow known as the Haradhanu, the Lord married Mother Sita and cut down the prestige of Parashuram. It's hard for me to understand how Lord Parashuram could have any prestige since he's a Shaktyavesh avatar, but that's how it's described. To obey the order of his father, he entered the forest accompanied by Lakshman and Sita, and there he cut off the nose of Shurpanaka and killed the associates of Ravana, headed by Kar and Dushan. And Ravan's kidnapping of Sita Devi was the beginning of this demon's misfortune. So when Marich assumed the form of a golden deer, Lord Ramachandra went to bring the deer to please Sita Devi, but in the meantime, Ravan took advantage of the Lord's absence to kidnap her. And so we ended last time. Last purport we were reading is that therefore woman must always be protected. And when Sita Devi was kidnapped, Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lakshman, searched for her through the forest. And in the course of this search, they met Jatayu. And that's where we left off last time.
So what page, what verse are we on?
Okay, let me just have a look at that. Um, uh, this is verse number 12. And I've asked everyone if they could read two verses each. We all get a chance to read, and we can ponder for any comments or questions that may arise. All right. Let's see. Share screen. And so if we go in the order of my screen here, I start first, then Krishna Chandra, then your turn, Rupanuga Prabhu, and then Zoom user comes after you. So Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, had assumed the form of a human being. Thus he performed the funeral ceremony of Jatayu, who was killed by Ravan. The Lord then killed the demon named Kabanda, and after making friends with the monkey chiefs, killing Vali, and arranging, what did I do with the text here? Oh, Krishna. What happened?
You just need to change tabs second from the left.
Okay. Second from the left. No, it took me right back to the very beginning. So let me go Srimad Bhagavatam, ninth canto. And what verse was that, please? Can anyone tell me what verse we were on?
Was it something like the 8th or the 9th, maybe?
No. Rupanuga, could you tell me what verse we were just on? I lost the page. I'm sorry.
Me too. I too.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what verse.
We're on verse
Prabhuji,
12. We're on
if
verse
you,
12.
okay.
Yeah, number 12. When Ramachandra was searching for Sita, okay, when Ravana kidnapped Sita, he was obstructed on the way by Jatayu, a large bird. But the powerful Ravan defeated Jatayu in the fight and cut his wing. When Ramachandra was searching for Sita, he found Jatayu almost dead and was informed that Sita has been carried off by Ravan. When Jatayu died, Lord Ramachandra did the duty of a son by performing the funeral ceremony, and then he made friends with the monkeys to deliver Sita Devi. Text 13. After reaching the beach, Lord Ramachandra fasted for 3 days, awaiting the arrival of the ocean personified. When the ocean did not come, the Lord exhibited his pastimes of anger, and simply by his glancing over the ocean, all the living entities within it, including the crocodiles and sharks, were agitated by fear. Then the personified ocean fearfully approached Lord Ramachandra, taking all paraphernalia to worship him. Falling at the Lord's lotus feet, the personified ocean spoke as follows. And just before Krishna Chandra, Prabhu, you read, can you see this on your screen right now, Lord Ramachandra and Sita in the forest?
I see text 14 in the middle of the screen.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share and then I'm going to go back to where we, okay. Can you see this painting? I went and I looked for all the original BBT paintings that went. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, good. Okay. Sita
Yeah.
in the forest, the Dandakaranya forest, I believe it was 14 years. There's Lakshman in the background. And there's Marich disguised as the golden deer to entice Sita Devi.
Can you turn your volume up?
Oh, can I, if I speak louder like this, is that better?
It's better to hear for me.
Okay, good. Sure. So,
Your volume's fine for me.
okay, good. Yeah, no, sometimes I sound too loud, so I was speaking softly. Thank you for letting me know. So, I don't know who did this painting. It'd be great to know. I like to give credit where credit is due. But that's from the 9th canto. That's the first, that's on the cover of the 9th canto.
It looks like Murlidhar.
Murlidhar, And then here, thank you. And then here is the Haradanu, that the stout and strong bow that Lord Ramachandra broke in the Swayamvara ceremony of Sita Devi. Quite amazing. And now this is where we are right now, where Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, they're at the shore of the ocean, and we don't actually see the personification of the ocean. I imagine that was Varuna coming with Artik paraphernalia to worship Lord Ram. But we will hear from the personification of the ocean. And then this is from, I believe, the 2nd canto of the Bhagavatam, where it lists Lord Ramachandra as being one of the principal avatars, walking across the stones that Lord Ramachandra boulders elevated with his mystic power. And then I came across this 1 million, they estimate, I don't know who they are, but 1,750,000 year old man-made bridge. Well, not man-made bridge, Rama-made bridge between Sri Lanka and India. And this is called Rama Setu from the tip of...
Sri Krishna tries to hide himself in various ways, but never...
Hello. Coming from Cape Comorin. Okay, so I'll just go back here to the text. Hare Krishna and Hare Prabhu, obeisances to you.
Hare Krishna, Dandavats. I'm
All right.
doing a lot of errands today, so I'll be in and out, and
Okay, thank you for coming.
all this.
Yeah, all right. So let me just find the original text here, get back to the text. And Krishna Chandra Prabhu, it's your turn to speak as the personification of the ocean. Let's hear what the ocean had to say to Lord Ramacandra. Okay.
O all-pervading Supreme Person, we are dull-minded and did not understand who you are, but now we understand that you are the Supreme Person, the Master of the entire universe, the unchanging and original personality of Godhead. The demigods are infatuated with the mode of goodness, the Prajapatis with the mode of passion, and the Lord of Ghosts with the mode of ignorance. But you are the master of all these qualities. The word jada dhyaha refers to intelligence like that of an animal. A person with such intelligence cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without being beaten, an animal cannot understand the purpose of a man. Similarly, those who are dull-minded cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when punished severely by the modes of material nature, they begin to understand him. A Hindi poet has said, Dukha se sabahari bhaje, sukha se bhaje koi, sukha se agar hari bhaje, dukha katan se haya. When one is distressed, he goes to the church or temple to worship the Lord. But when opulent, he forgets the Lord. Therefore, punishment by the Lord through material nature is necessary in human society. For without it, men forget the supremacy of the Lord due to their dull, blunt intelligence.
This verse reminds me that whoever the Hindi poet is, that when one's opulent, he forgets the Lord. It reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita verse, Bogaishvarya prasaktanam taya purita chetasam. What is it? Vyavasatmika buddhi. I don't remember the last line, but in the minds of those who are too attached to material opulence, the resolute determination of devotional service does not take place. So here it's saying that when one's distressed, he goes to the church or temple to worship the Lord. So that reminds me of the four pious men. Was it? Chatur vidha bhajante mam, jana sukritino rujano, arto artarti jigyasa. And I'm forgetting the last line again. But those are one of the four pious men, right? Those who are distressed, they go to the church or temple. But the danger of that, if they're not coming on the basis of intelligence, then when they become opulent, they forget the Lord. Rupanuga Prabhu, do you have a comment on this purport here?
Well, just to continue what you're saying, when a person joins the movement, the same four classes come to the movement. And the one that's in distress tends to leave once his distress is a little alleviated, unless by associating with a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, then he gets the idea beyond that original reason. So then he remains. But if he doesn't understand that's not, the movement is not simply to release his distress in this material world, then when that distress is released, he may think, well, this is the accomplishment. The other three kinds of people have the reasons. One, some looking for material gain, some looking actually for the absolute truth, some curious. They're all different classes. The curious and those looking for the absolute truth are the most intelligent of the four. And when a person who joins the movement or joined Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna movement, and they were looking for some material achievement, I've noticed that if that doesn't change by that association, Monsieur Poppet, either when he was here or in his books, that a person who remains with that feeling of advancement, material advancement, and doesn't become more purified in time, that person can cause havoc within the movement by maintaining a desire, an ambitious desire. And that has been a problem, has been a big problem. It's a problem, it's always a problem. But when there's ambition overruling one's devotional spirit, then it can affect the others as well, other devotees. If that person achieves some position of leadership.
Does
that make,
sorry,
does that make sense? Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah, sure. Good point. Good point. That it's
I
actually.
mean, I like to see things in the present, how these things are applied in our present day. It's just like this description here, forgetting Krishna. What happens? We have this whole, Srila Prabhupada calls this a godless civilization that we're in. And so the godless civilization means forgetfulness. And we see how the reaction is coming. The punishment for forgetting Krishna is coming.
Yeah.
There's a whole global karmic rollout where there's great anxiety, there's people are put in great distress, and persons who are godless nature are in control. And this is what happens in godless civilization. When Krishnas move out off the center, when the pure devotees move off the center, then there's distress. But it's not because of nature, of course, Mother Nature is involved. People are thinking, well, these things happen because this is the way it is. But the reason that these symptoms are now showing, that's being described in this verse, is because of godlessness.
Nirhari Bhavatrini, do you have any comment before we move on?
No.
Okay. Krishna Chandra, any comment or question from you before we move on?
Thank you for asking. Not at this time.
Okay, great. So you just finished reading was it one or two that you read?
I only read one so far.
Okay, so please do the next one.
Thank you.
15.
My Lord, you may use my water as you like. Indeed, you may cross it and go to the abode of Ravana, who is the great source of disturbance and crying for the three worlds. He is the son of Vishrava, but is condemned like urine. Please go kill him and thus regain your wife, Sita Devi. O great hero, although my water presents no impediment to your going to Lanka, please construct a bridge over it to spread your transcendental fame. Upon seeing this wonderful, uncommon deed of your lordship, all the great heroes and kings in the future will glorify you. It is said that a sun and urine emanate from the same source, the genitals. When a sun is a devotee or a great learned person, the seminal discharge for begetting a son is successful. But if the son is unqualified and brings no glory to his family, he is no better than urine. Here, Ravana is compared to urine because he is a cause of disturbances to the three worlds. Thus, the ocean personified wanted him killed by Lord Ramacandra. One feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramacandra, is omnipotence. The Lord can act without regard to material impediments or inconveniences, but to prove that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and was not merely advertised as Godhead or elected by popular vote. He constructed a wonderful bridge over the ocean. Nowadays, it has become fashionable to create some artificial god who performs no uncommon activities. A little magic will bewilder a foolish person into selecting an artificial god because he does not understand how powerful God is. Lord Ramacandra, however, constructed a bridge over the water with stone by making the stone float. This is proof of God's uncommonly wonderful power. Why should someone be accepted as God without displaying extraordinary potency by doing something never to be done by any common man? We accept Lord Ramacandra as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he constructed this bridge. And we accept Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he lifted Govardhan Hill when he was only 7 years old. We should not accept any rascal as God or as an incarnation of God, for God displays special features in his various activities. Therefore, the Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, shloka 9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyakva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. The activities of the Lord are not common. They are all transcendentally wonderful and will not be performed by any other living being. The symptoms of the Lord's activities are all mentioned in the Shastras. And after one understands them, one can accept the Lord as he is.
Thank you. I like this point that Srila Prabhupada was making, that Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not merely advertised as Godhead or elected by a popular vote. He constructed a wonderful bridge over the ocean, and now it's become fashionable to create some artificial God who performs no uncommon activities. Just a little magic will bewilder a foolish person into selecting an artificial God because he doesn't understand how powerful God is. So a couple of things came into my mind. I was speaking to one person this morning who appreciates Vedic culture a lot, but like many, he was also appreciating Ramakrishna. And I said, oh, Prabhupada described him as Gadadhar Chaturji, who worshipped goddess Kali. And by worshiping goddess Kali, he became an incarnation of Rama and Krishna. I don't think so. But I didn't harp on it too much because this gentleman was, had some sentiment for Rama and Krishna. And, I just planted that little seed and I didn't, push any further on this point because I thought I might, disturb him by that. But, and then Ramakrishna made Vivekananda, and Prabhupada, first of all, Prabhupada called Ramakrishna the mad monk of Bengal. And then Vivekananda, he said that better to worship, better to grow baigan, tulsi plant an eggplant was more valuable than a tulsi plant, because at least from an eggplant bush you get an eggplant, but what do you get from a tulsi bush? And so that was the student of Ramakrishna, the cheaters and the cheated. And also this little bit of magic that Prabhupada was talking about reminds me of such a sly Baba. Shai Pataka Maharaj told the story once that there was a couple of magicians and they had gone to the same school of magic as whatever his name is, Satya Sai Baba. And when they went to see him, he made a Rasgula appear, and they also made Rasgulas appear. and he made a little bit of gold appear, and they also made a little bit of gold appear, and such as like Baba was like feeling very challenged and intimidated, and they said, "We know who you are, and we know what you do. You're not a sadhu. You know some magic tricks." So this is what Prabhupada is referring to here. Rupanuga Prabhu, do you have any comments on this paragraph? Or
I lost my track trying to watch the screen in my book at the same time. Where are we? Which purport?
yeah,
Text what?
we were in text 15 about how Lord the
Good.
ocean is glorifying Lord Ramacandra. Yeah,
Well,
building a bridge.
as before is described, sometimes it takes a little punishment for a person to wake up to their sinful life. And we see that that Ramchandra approached the ocean for cooperation and she didn't show up. And so he became angry. The Lord exhibited his pastimes of anger, and simply by his glancing over the ocean, all the living entities within, including the crocodiles and sharks, were agitated by fear. So this, what's missing in this age is the fear of God. And here he's showing that. And when he was showing that anger, then the creatures in the ocean became agitated. And then the person in charge, the demigoddess in charge of the ocean, then approached. He was saying, "We are all dull-minded and did not understand who you are." The same thing happened to Lord Krishna. I heard Sri Prabhupada say only one or 200 people knew Krishna was the Supreme Personality of God. Even though he appeared personally in front of everyone. So we see here Ramchandra also initially has this same thing happening to him when he was expecting the ocean arrival, the ocean personified, and she didn't show up because she was doubtful about who he was.
I have a question. Why did Lord Ramachandra require the personification of the ocean to show up? What was why did she or he have to show up?
Well, the Lord is always.
To honor the Lord?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the Lord always wants to engage his devotees. He's always giving some circumstance to give them a chance to help him. He can do everything else by himself. He doesn't need anybody, but he wants to be joined by his devotees in his pastime.
Nice point. So it was really for the benefit of the personification of the ocean that the Lord was angry. That you need to be here, or I want to interact with you. I want to have rasa with you. I want to reciprocate with you. That idea.
Yeah, this Lord Krishna could have won the battle of Kurukshetra by himself, but he wanted to engage Arjuna. He wanted to engage him, give him the credit, because he told him the battle's won whether you fight or not. But, for Arjuna's benefit, he fought.
Right. Your point about people not having enough fear of God, of course, in Christianity and probably Islam, perhaps all the Abrahamic religions, the fear of God is really emphasized to the point of where there's not really a question of developing love of God. It's a question of only having fear of God. And when Prabhupada criticized us and said, the problem is that you don't have you do not have, you need to have a healthy fear of Maya. You're lacking. You've been associating with Maya for so long.
Yeah, the point is love of God. See, the fear of God is for those who don't know enough about God to love him. Because they can only see him in his power in this material world. If those people understood about Lord Krishna's pastimes or Lord Ramachandra's pastimes, then they would have some awe and veneration instead of the requirement of fear. Because the fear keeps them in line. But the awe and veneration and the love also keeps them in line, but it's in different mood. Mood of service. What's missing is service. What's missing, really missing is active service in mundane religions. How can they serve a master they don't know? How can they serve a father they don't know? How can they serve a master they don't know enough about to want to render service? If you see, like Krishna has these attributes that no one else has, so he's attract. Krishna means all attractive. So God must be attractive to everyone. You see, it's not their opinion; it's what they know about him to attract them.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Srila Prabhupada.
You're saying by the devotees knowing about him, that attracts the Lord to them. Is that what you're saying?
By their by their by their learning more about him, they wish to offer service,
Mm-hmm.
and Krishna reciprocates with service.
Mm-hmm.
For those who simply break his laws, he reciprocates with them too. And that's what's happening right now on this
Right.
planet.
Yes.
You can't go around killing helpless creatures for decades and centuries and get away with it.
Yeah. Excellent point. Yeah. Bhavatrini, do you have anything to add to the discussion on this paragraph or any of the points that Rupanuga has raised?
No.
Okay. Krishna Chandra?
Yes, Prabhu.
I was just wondering if you had a comment or a question before we
Oh,
move on.
oh, excuse me. Thank you. Not at this time, but thank you
Okay,
so much.
so Rupanuga Prabhu, two verses, please. Starting
with which one?
Shukadev Goswami said, which is verse 16.
Okay. We're not doing the Sanskrit, we're just reading the English, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sukadeva Goswami said, after constructing a bridge over the ocean by throwing into the water the peaks of mountains, whose trees and other vegetation had been shaken by the hands of great monkeys, Lord Ramchandra went to Lanka to release Sita Devi from the clutches of Ravana. With the direction and help of Vibhisana, Ravana's brother, the Lord, along with the monkey soldiers headed by Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, entered Ravana's kingdom, Lanka, which had previously been burnt by Hanuman. Purport. Great mountain peaks covered with trees and plants were thrown into the sea by the monkey soldiers and began to float by the supreme will of the Lord. By the supreme will of the Lord, many great plants float weightlessly in space like swabs of cotton. If this is possible, why should great mountain peaks not be able to float on water? This is the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do anything and everything he likes because he's not under the control of the material nature. Indeed, material nature is controlled by him. Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suratesh Vatsaram. Only under his direction does Prakriti or material nature work. Similar information is given in the Brahma Samhita 552. Yag Yag Yana Paramati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govidamari Purusham Tamaham Brajami. Describing how material nature works, the Brahma Samhita says that the sun moves as desired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, for Lord Ramchandra to construct a bridge over the Indian Ocean with the help of monkey soldiers who threw great mountain peaks into the water is not at all wonderful. It is wonderful only in the sense that it has kept the name and fame of Lord Ramchandra eternally celebrated.
One thought that comes to me on this purport, this verse, is how actually it's not amazing for the Lord to be able to float the boulders on the water because he's floating so many planets and universes in space. And so that brings up to me the point of, how the scientists refer to the law of gravity. But Prabhupada said, if you're talking about a law, then there must be a lawmaker. And it's beyond my comprehension how, well, Krishna says, Maya purita jnana, their knowledge is stolen by illusion. How, people with big intellects cannot understand that there's any intelligence behind the laws of the universe, that they cannot comprehend the possibility of a lawmaker behind the laws. Right? Prabhupada would refer to the law of gravity. Well, who made the law? He would
Yeah, it's like like he says, nature. The modern scientists acknowledge that nature is in control. They have to admit that. They say everything's going on naturally, by nature, by automatically. Automatic is a big favorite word they have, automatic. And Srila Prabhupada finds fault with this word automatic all the time because people look at the world as if it's automatic. But the scientists admit this automatic is really by nature, Mother Nature is doing it. They can see it happening. They can't control it. They can't control the hurricanes that come across from the coast of Africa and hit the Florida coast. They can't control that. But they claim that they won't admit a controller.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. They themselves control their own experiments, but they can't admit a controller of Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, all the intelligence that they used to get their PhDs and scientific training is lost. Because human intelligence is meant for tapasya. Tapasya it takes to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's tapasya is to go to college, they go 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to get an MD and all that they do. So much they perform, but it's all for sense gratification.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in service. It's not even service attitude to the people. The people right now are suffering because of impure leadership. You see? See, Ram Raj, right now, even today in India, they're always Ram Raj, Ram Raj, Ram Raj. Why Ram Raj? The days of Ram Raj ruling over the people for their benefit. There's no benefit. If you don't say something, I'll keep talking.
With what you reminded me of a verse by Lord Rishabhadev, Nayam Deho Deha Lokam, where he's telling where he's telling his 100 sons that human life, Brahma Sokyam, Tvanantam, is meant for tapasya.
Yes.
In order to achieve Brahma Sokyam, spiritual happiness.
Yes. But the tapasya that Srila Prabhupada gave us is so easy. And yet it accomplishes the same as the tapasya going through in previous yugas with great endeavor. Meditating 50,000 years and then going through all fire sacrifices and performing all kinds of meditations, all these things in previous yugas. It's made so easy to perform tapasya.
And even
don't eat meat or egg, don't eat meat, fish, or eggs, don't have illicit sex, don't gamble, these things.
Right. So next verse, Rupanuga Prabhu, unless Bhavatrini has something to say.
17.
I can't take part because I'm doing my taxes right now.
Oh, okay, but you're listening in. Oh.
I'm listening.
And I'm going to have to take a look.
Let us know when you're.
Okay, after this verse.
Will you be reading next after? Will you be reading next after Rupanuga finishes, or you prefer us to read ourselves, Bhavatrini? Okay, please continue.
I can't read.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, I've got to take a break for Gayatri. It's getting dark here.
Oh yeah, me too.
So let's do that, and then can I come back?
Okay.
I'm going to take a few minutes.
Okay, I'll do my Gayatri break too because it's pitch black here. Okay.
Is this time for Gayatri now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I will do the same. Thank you.
Well, I'm back.
Jai. Jai. Okay, yeah, so there's your voice, verse 17, after entering Lanka.
My turn.
Yeah.
I wanted to make one comment, if I may, about Gayatri.
Yeah.
I heard Srila Prabhupada say that Gayatri is made within the mouth so that the demigods cannot hear.
Huh. So they cannot hear.
They cannot hear. So the demigods cannot hear. So it's made within the mouth. Actually, it's to be chanted within the mouth. It doesn't come out.
Why do
Exactly.
we not want the demigods to hear?
Well, because it's not their business.
Really?
It's
Aren't they
our
great?
business. It's our independent. It's our independent prayer.
Okay.
So also, we pray the first mantra, Om Bhur Bhuvak Svak, is mentions. We say we worship the divine effulgence. We say that because for a long time I was thinking, why are we worshiping the sun as divine? Then I read in a purport in the Bhagavatam, I forget exactly where it's been used, where Srila Prabhupada says Surya Narayan, because this present sun god is an incarnation of Narayan. So he's called Surya Narayan. And also, I always like to call attention to that how we pray to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as the maintainer of this universe. And this is his age. This is his age, Lord Chaitanya's golden age. And he's actually maintaining. And it will come out. And then also, I always remember that we are praying to Srila Prabhupada. We pray about him, try to understand him. And he's always in blissful Krishna consciousness. And we want him to be enthused as he has enthused us. Very important. That means we want Srila Prabhupada to see how we are spreading his teachings. That's what enthuses Srila Prabhupada. Okay, I'll read text 18.
Welcome to Sikarani and Nahush. Thank you for joining in tonight.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Jai Hare Krishna.
So I'm supposed to read 18, is it? Or 17?
17.
17. Okay. 17. After entering Lanka, the monkey soldiers led by chiefs like Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman occupied all the sporting houses, granaries, treasuries, palace doorways, city gates, assembly houses, palace frontages, and even the resting houses of the pigeon. When the city's crossroads, platforms, flags, and golden water pots on its domes were all destroyed, the entire city of Lanka appeared like a river disturbed by a herd of elephants.
Sounds like what Putin is doing to Kiev right now. It's not laughing matter.
No.
Next in line is Sikarani is next, and then after Sikarani is Nahush Prabhu for reading, please. Sikarani, are you ready to read? Good.
Yes, sure.
Okay. When Ravana.
When Ravana, the master of the Rakshasas, saw the disturbances created by the monkey soldiers, he called for Kumbha, Dhumraksha, Durmukha, Shruyantaka, Narantaka, and other Rakshasas, and also his son Indrajit. Thereafter, he called for Prahasta, Atikaya, Vikampana, and finally Kumbhakarna. Then he induced all his followers to fight against the enemies. Lord Ramacandra, surrounded by Lakshmana and monkey soldiers like Sugriva, Hanuman, Gandhamada, Nila, Angada, Jambuan, and Panasa, attacked the soldiers of the Rakshasas, who were fully equipped with various invincible weapons like swords, lances, bows, prashas, ritis, shakti, arrows, khadgas, and tomras.
Thank you. Nahush, are you able to read, Prabhu? Nahush?
Yes, I can read.
Turn up the volume. You can hardly hear you.
Is it easier, better now?
Yeah, better now. Yeah.
Okay. Angada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Ramacandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and chariots of the enemy and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs, and arrows. Thus the soldiers of Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana's soldiers, who had lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. The soldiers Lord Ramachandra recruited in the jungle were all monkeys and did not have proper equipment with which to fight the soldiers of Ravana. For Ravana's soldiers were equipped with weapons of modern warfare, whereas the monkeys could only throw stones, mountain peaks, and trees. It was only Lord Ramachandra and Lakshmana who shot some arrows. But because the soldiers of Ravana were condemned by the curse of Mother Sita, the monkeys were able to kill them simply by throwing stones and trees. There are two kinds of strength, Daiva and Purushakara. Daiva refers to the strength achieved from transcendence, and Purushakara refers to the strength organized by one's own intelligence and power. Transcendental power is always superior to the power of the materialist. Depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one must fight one's enemies, even though one may not be equipped with the modern weapons. Therefore, Krishna instructed Arjuna, Mam Anusmara Yudhya Cha. Bhagavad Gita 8:7. Think of me and fight. We should fight our enemy to the best of our ability, but for victory we must depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Any comment on that, Rupanuga Prabhu?
Well,
One must fight one's enemies, even though one may not be equipped with modern weapons. How does that translate to today?
translates into Harinam
Uh-huh.
because we don't have much weapons, but we have to fight. To the best of our ability, it says. But for victory, we must depend upon the mercy of the Supreme Personality of God. I mean, it's a big fight because we're outnumbered, tremendously outnumbered by so much power, material power. But at the same time, we're the only ones that have any spiritual power. So we have to use it with great faith, understand that Harinam is a blessing, but it's also a weapon to destroy illusion, Maya.
I was seeing a photo of a young man on Facebook today. He's a devotee in Ukraine, holding on to his rifle or machine gun, and he's chanting the Narasingha prayers. And it described that not too long after this, in the fight against the Russians attacking Ukraine, he was killed. And I was thinking, wow, what a situation to be in. You know, it's not like the Ukrainians are fighting a war because they're a great, all of Ukraine is a great Vaishnav nation, you know, even though it was a spiritual country many years ago. And it's not that Putin is coming to establish a higher standard of Dharma in Russia, and yet a poor devotee is caught in this. I mean, it's good that he's chanting Lord Narasimha's prayers before he left his body, but there's no side to take when it's demon against demon. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thought on that?
No, devotees have no obligation to take part in geopolitics.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't fight in a war like that. When Srila Prabhupada was preaching in San Francisco at the big celebration, some persons asked him, well, what about the war and so on and so on? And he was saying, well, you support this government. I mean, they're calling you. What did you expect? And so they got very angry, started calling him a fascist and, communist, what are so many names, and some of them start running out. The Shilpa would just start chanting. But it's true. You see, people support their governments. And so when the government calls, you see, but we're not supporting any government. We have to understand we're not supporting any government. We're not supporting any of this geopolitics. From one point of view, Putin's correct in attack because his borders are threatened from his point of view. Just like President Kennedy felt the U.S. was threatened by bombs, or I should say rocket silos, nuclear rocket silos in Cuba, the Cuban Missile Crisis. For the same reason, he confronted Khrushchev and the threat of a war. Khrushchev backed down and pulled all the rocket ships, all the missiles out of Cuba. So for the same reason, Putin's saying, I've got all these people on my borders and they all are armed, and I have a right not to be threatened like that. So he's got the same logic and reasoning of geopolitics. See, so who's right or wrong? It's all karma.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have a comment or question regarding that point before we move on?
I was just thinking, like, I personally met a devotee who is from Ukraine, and they had a different view. Like, they were still commenting about, of course, in favor of their country and based on the facts and the history. So, but I know that they are really good devotees. So I feel like when you are in a position when your country is attacked, you might be kind of impacted in a different way. It is easier for us to comment, I guess. But of course, Uttama devotee will be above all this, but I don't think all the devotees, especially if it's their own motherland, they would be able to think any other way.
Well, wait a minute. During the Vietnam War, Srila Prabhupada approved of devotees being exempted. I did that work myself. We were able to exempt devotees from the fighting on the grounds of their being ministerial students.
Yeah, like I think they can choose to not fight. What I am telling is like their opinion. Like they will still feel like, as you are telling, like we should be neutral about who is better and who is correct, who is wrong, because they have their own reference. Like Russians will think Russians are correct, Ukrainians will think Ukrainians are correct. But the thing is, when the devotee is from Ukraine, if in a perfect world, the devotee shouldn't be biased. Like they shouldn't say that Ukraine is better or Russia is bad, if they are a real devotee, right?
No, we're not neutral. They're all bad. That's not neutral. We're not neutral.
Yeah. Basically, they are all bad. Like they should not take a side, even if they belong to that particular country, right?
Yes, they should take Krishna's side. Krishna's side is none of these people are qualified to run a country. They're all impure. And because of their impurities, these wars are going on.
Yeah.
We have to look at it through Srila Prabhupada's Shastra.
Yeah.
We can sympathize with the coming under. After all, Europe's been through World War I, World War II. We understand that. But when the Iron Curtain came down, the Russian devotees were free. Before that, they couldn't chant in the streets. They couldn't even chant at home. They could be persecuted for having a temple in their own homes.
Yeah.
But when the freedom meant the freedom to chant. So that's what freedom means. That's the real freedom of the conditioned soul. He has a freedom to be Krishna conscious, and he should be. But therefore, freedom is a spiritual issue.
And
so
suppose,
when there was freedom for the Russian devotees, they came out.
Yeah.
And went to Mayapur.
Mhm. So I think, like as you said, when it was a Vietnam War condition, the devotees were exempt. But like, what about a really fascist country like suppose China? They won't exempt anybody, I feel. So what should a devotee do in that sense when they are really forced to fight?
I didn't get the question. What's your point?
If the country doesn't exempt the devotees, then what choice they have?
When push comes to shove, just like Shubhava said, when Ramaswamy was talking about all the fallout that's going to come and it's going to, everyone is going to be in danger. We just chant Hare Krishna. What else can we do?
So should they go in the war and still don't fight the war? Like, should they just surrender, or should they start chanting Hare Krishna? This is a hypothetical question, but I'm still thinking about this.
Of course, but if one should escape if possible. One doesn't want to kill another human being for a material reason.
Yeah.
And if you're attacked by somebody, you have a right to defend yourself. But that doesn't mean you have to go to war for an errant leader. You see, but you have a right to defend yourself. Everyone has a right to defend themselves. This has to do with it's a national conception.
Yeah. So if they don't get the chance to be exempted, like if they are really forced to go to the war, then they should focus on defending themselves rather than killing others, right?
You can take your hypothetical situation to 100 degrees. All right. And you can just do that and go on and on. It just becomes Pujalpa after a while. But I mean, you can invent so many reasons not to fight. Okay.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that we're caught in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you should escape if possible, you should leave, go someplace else where you can perform devotional service without being forced to do something that's against your principles.
Yeah. Yeah.
You kill another human being over a concept of nationalism, that's not devotional service.
True.
I have a question.
Okay.
Oh, Nahush, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, from a little bit of a historical point of view, I wanted to say that like not medieval era, but like 1600s, or like around that time, especially in India, when the Kshatriyas were fighting, offsetting the Mughals and other forces. They used to go into war by saying Lord Shiva's name, Har Har Mahadev. That's one that came to mind. But another thing that came to mind is there's an example of Shivaji Maharaj, who had taken a shelter of I believe a Vaishnava, either Tukaram or Ramdas, and then under his guru's instruction, they were doing Harinam in a tent. And I just want to quickly sort of tell the story. And the soldiers came, other opposing soldiers came to find Shivaji, and then his guru said, "No one will leave the Harinam. If we die, we die." Shivaji's made that okay. If I have to die, I'll die in Harinam. And then when the soldiers looked in the tent, they saw everyone as Shivaji, as the king, and in fear they ran for their lives, and they cut themselves on the bushes and everything like while they're running. But this is a story that's been told, and I just wanted to relay that story because how powerful. As one example as how powerful the Mahamantra is, and of course we have the other stories like stories of Haridas Thakur and Prahlad Maharaj and so many other devotees. But as that came to my mind, I just wanted to share.
Thank you. So Sikarani, you finished your 2 paragraphs. Nahush, you didn't have a chance to read yet, did you?
I want to give an example. I want to give an example here because I want to give an example from our movement. From now, the devotees were captured. This is the time when things were happening that led to the book being written called Salted Bread.
Yeah.
Very important book to understand. Anyway, there's a story about one female devotee who was being interrogated, and they're trying to break her will. So they actually employed a witch. And these witches have some power. And the witch was having some power on this lady, this devotee. She could feel it. So she starts chanting the Sringadev. Nothing happened. She chanted Hare Krishna, nothing happened. Then she said, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. And all of a sudden, the witch stopped. And so the police there, they said, "Why are you stopping? You're becoming successful." She said, and the witch said, "There's an old man in the corner pointing his finger at me, and I can't resist him." And the devotee, the lady replied that it was Srila Prabhupada. When she was said the Ma Om, Srila Prabhupada came, and this person saw Srila Prabhupada and backed off. And the witch says, "I can't go any further. I can't do it." So we have our Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, Krishna. As Lord Chaitanya himself called upon Krishna, himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, called upon Krishna for protection in his tour in South India. And also in that, Krishna, Krishna, Rama Raghava, Ram Raghava, Rama Raghava Shema. Lord Ramchandra, please protect us. Please maintain us. So this is a prayer we follow Lord Chaitanya. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Hey, and that's our prayer. If the Lord himself showed that prayer for his own protection, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we have to follow, because we're in his movement, we have to follow his example. It's like that devotee lady, she called on Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna. We don't call on anybody unless we call on Srila Prabhupada first. We don't have the right to directly go anywhere except by his permission. If he says you can call on Nrsimhadev, you can call on Ramchandra, then we can do it. But it's all by his grace.
Nahush Prabhu, did you read?
Yes, I read one text and the purport.
Okay, so please read the next one, okay?
Okay.
Good. Here we are, text 21.
Thereafter, when Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, observed that his soldiers had been lost, he was extremely angry. Thus he mounted his airplane, which was decorated with flowers, and proceeded towards Lord Ramachandra, who sat on the effulgent chariot brought by Matali, the chariot driver of Indra, when Ravana struck Lord Ramachandra with sharp arrows.
Okay, unless there's anybody after you, then it's back to me again. I don't think it's just Bavatrini, but she's busy. Okay. So, Lord, this is text number 22. Lord Ramachandra said to Ravana, "You are the most abominable of the man-eaters. Indeed, you are like their stool. You resemble a dog, for as a dog steals eatables from the kitchen in the absence of the householder, in my absence, you kidnap my wife, Sita Devi. Therefore, as Yamaraj punishes sinful man, I shall also punish you. You are most abominable, sinful, and shameless. Today, therefore, I, whose attempt never fails, shall punish you." Purport. Nacha Daivat Parambalam. No one can surpass the strength of the transcendence. Ravana was so sinful and shameless that he did not know what the result would be of kidnapping Mother Sita, the pleasure potency of Ramachandra. This is the disqualification of the Rakshasas. Asatyam apratishtam te jagad ahur anishvaram. The Rakshasas are unaware that the Supreme Lord is the ruler of the creation. They think that everything has come about by chance or accident, and that there is no ruler, king, or controller. Therefore, The Rakshasas act independently, as they like, going even so far as to kidnap the goddess of fortune. This policy of Ravana's is extremely dangerous for the materialist. Indeed, it brings ruin to the materialistic civilization. Nonetheless, because atheists are Rakshasas, they dare to do things that are most abominable, and thus they are punished without fail. Religion consists of the orders of the Supreme Lord, and one who carries out these orders is religious. One who fails to carry out the Lord's orders is irreligious, and he is to be punished. So, let's see if I can find this here. I wanted to find. I wanted to look up the purport to 16:8. But okay, just to keep the flow going, I'll read because we get 2 verses each. So I'll read mine so Krishna Chandra can read his. Text 23.
My volume's down. I have to fix it. I'm sorry.
After thus rebuking Ravan, Lord Ramacandra fixed an arrow to his bow, aimed at Ravan, and released the arrow, which pierced Ravan's heart like a thunderbolt. Upon seeing this, Ravana's followers raised a tumultuous sound, crying, "Alas! Alas! What has happened? What has happened?" As Ravana, vomiting blood from his 10 mouths, fell from his airplane, just as a pious man falls to earth from the heavenly planets when the results of his pious activities are exhausted. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 9:21, it is said, Kshane punye martyalokam vishanti. When the results of their pious activities are exhausted, those who have enjoyed in the heavenly planets fall again to earth. The fruit of activities of this material world are such that whether one acts piously or impiously, one must remain within the material world according to different conditions, for neither pious nor impious actions can relieve one from Maya's clutches of repeated birth and death. However, somehow or other, Ravan was raised to an exalted position as the king of a great kingdom with all great opulences. But because of his sinful act of kidnapping Mother Sita, all the results of his pious activities were destroyed. If one offends an exalted personality, especially the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one certainly becomes most abominable. Bereft of the results of pious activities, one must fall down like Ravan and other demons. It is therefore advised that one transcend both pious and impious activities and remain in the pure state of freedom from all designations. Sarvabhadi nirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19:170. When one is fixed in devotional service, he is above the material platform. On the material platform, there are higher and lower positions, but when one is above the material platform, he is always fixed in a spiritual position. Sa gunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Ravan, or those like him, may be very powerful and opulent in this material world, but theirs is not a secure position, because after all, they are bound by the results of their karma. Karmana daivanitrena. We should not forget that we are completely dependent on the laws of nature. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma imanyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. Bhagavad Gita 3:27. One should not be proud of one's exalted position and act like Ravana, thinking oneself independent of material nature's laws. Any comment on that, Rupanuga Prabhu?
Oh, well, the verse, the bewildered spirit soul under the influence of the 3 modes thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. what this is saying, that materialistic persons think that they're in control of their lives, but they're actually acting according to their karma. And that those actions are carried out by the modes of material nature. So we say, Shabbat is declaring a war on Maya. Of course, Maya is a fellow servant of the Lord. But we're declaring war on those persons who are acting under the illusion of Maya, pretending to be leaders, pretending to be so many religious people, pretending to be so many things. So we're fighting against illusion. And if the biggest illusion in the world today is everyone thinks they're their bodies, that's where all this nationalism comes from. While the fighting is like, Joe Baba once talked about I think in the 70s, I think it was, there was a oil crisis, a supply of oil from the Middle East. Saudi Arabia was not bringing enough oil, allowing enough oil to be exported. So he said the solution was offer them American citizenship. He says nobody likes to live in a desert, so offer them citizenship, and that way the problem will be solved.
Who said to offer them citizenship?
Joe Popeye says
Oh.
offer them citizenship,
Uh-huh.
American citizenship. That's a problem to solve. There'll be no problem then with any oil supply. You see, because he said nobody likes to live in a desert.
Right.
See,
Unless you're a nomad with a camel.
yeah. Well, even then, he said nobody. They don't like it either, but that's their karma. So Shiva was saying, give them a better situation, and they'll give you oil. Simple solution. Simple solution.
Uh-huh.
And that's from the transcendental point of view. Shobhavbhats.
Thank you. Divija Garanga Prabhu, you didn't have a chance to read tonight. Thank you for coming. Would you like to read the 2 verses, please?
Sure, I'd love to.
Text 24.
24. Are we reading the Sanskrit?
No.
Okay. Thereafter, all the women whose husbands had fallen in the battle, headed by Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, came out of Lanka. Continuously crying, they approached the dead bodies of Ravana and the other Rakshasas. Text 25, translation. Striking their breasts in affliction because their husbands had been killed by the arrows of Lakshman, the women embraced their respective husbands and cried piteously in voices appealing to everyone.
O my lord, O master, you epitomize trouble for others, and therefore you were called Ravana. But now that you have been defeated, we also are defeated, for without you, the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter? Purport. Ravana's wife Mandodari and the other wives knew very well how cruel a person Ravana was. The very word Ravana means one who causes crying for others. Ravana continuously caused trouble for others, and when his sinful activities culminated in giving trouble to Sita Devi, he was killed by Lord Ramacandra. O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramacandra. Purport. Not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances of this in the history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find a description of ideal chaste women, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of 5 exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narad, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. It's a moral principle that one should not be influenced by lusty desires for another's wife. Matravat para dhareshu. An intelligent person must look upon another's wife as being like his mother. This is a moral injunction from Chanakya Shloka 10. Matravat para dhareshu para dravyeshu loshtravat atmavat sarabhabhuteshu yapashyati sapanditaha. One who considers another's wife as his mother another's possessions as a lump of dirt, and treats all other living beings as he would himself, is considered to be learned. Thus Ravana was condemned not only by Lord Ramachandra, but even by his own wife, Mandodari. Because she was a chaste woman, she knew the power of another chaste woman, especially such a wife as Mother Sita Devi. Anything on that before we move on? Krishna Chandra, would you like to read 2 verses?
Yes, Prabhu. O pleasure of the Rakshasa dynasty, because of you, the state of Lanka, and also we ourselves now have no protector. By your deeds, you have made your body fit to be eaten by vultures, and your soul fit to go to hell. One who follows the path of Ravana is condemned in 2 ways. His body is fit to be eaten by dogs and vultures, and the soul goes to hell, as stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 16:19. Tan aham jvishtataha kruram samsareshu naradhaman kshipami ajasram ashabhan asuris eva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demonic species of life. Thus, the destination of godless atheists such as Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, and Dantavakra is a hellish condition of life. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, could understand all this because she was a chaste woman. Although lamenting for the death of her husband, she knew what would happen to his body and soul. For although one cannot see directly with one's material eyes, one can see with eyes of knowledge, Pashyanti Jnana Chakshushaha. In Vedic history, there are many instances of how one becomes godless and is condemned by the laws of nature.
Was that 2 verses?
1 to my knowledge. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Vibhishana, the pious brother of Ravana and devotee of Lord Ramachandra, received approval from Lord Ramachandra, the king of Kosala. Then he performed the prescribed funeral ceremonies for his family members to save them from the path of hell. After giving up the body, one is transformed to another body, but sometimes if one is too sinful, he is checked from transmigrating to another body, and thus he becomes a ghost. To save a diseased person from ghostly life, the funeral ceremony or Shraddha ceremony, as prescribed in authorized Shastra, must be performed. Ravana was killed by Lord Ramachandra and was destined for hellish life, but by Lord Ramachandra's advice, Vibhishana, Ravana's brother, performed all the duties prescribed in relation to the dead. Thus, Lord Ramachandra was kind to Ravana even after Ravana's death.
Yoga Prabhu, would you like to read 2 verses?
Next, I can't hear you very well. You say me?
Would you like to read next 2 verses, please?
Uh,
Thereafter.
Yeah, 30 verse, text 30. Thereafter, Lord Ramchandra found Sita Devi sitting in a small cottage beneath the tree named Shimshapa, in a forest of Ashoka trees. She was lean and thin, being aggrieved because of separation from him. Seeing his wife in that condition, Lord Ramchandra was very compassionate. When Ramchandra came before her, she was exceedingly happy to see her husband, her beloved, and her lotus-like mouth showed her joy.
Shikarani.
After giving Vibhishana the power to rule the Rakshasa population of Lanka for the duration of one kalpa. Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagwan, placed Sita Devi on the airplane decorated with flowers and then got on the plane himself. The period for his living in the forest having ended, the Lord returned to Ayodhya, accompanied by Hanuman, Sugriva, and his brother Lakshmana. When Lord Ramachandra returned to his capital, Ayodhya, he was greeted on the road by the princely order, who showered his body with beautiful fragrant flowers, while great personalities like Lord Rama and other demigods glorified the activities of the Lord in great jubilation.
So is this what is called Diwali?
Yes.
The road had
Yep.
lights on it also.
Yeah. Yes.
And and right now, isn't it called Navaratri? I know Prabhupada never celebrated that.
Yeah.
Isn't it not
It's
Nava?
happening. Chaitra Navratri.
Right, but that's more in praise of goddess Durga, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Um, Divija Garanga Prabhu, 2 verses, please.
Upon reaching Ayodhya, Lord Ramchandra heard that in his absence, his brother Bharat was eating barley cooked in the urine of a cow, covering his body with the bark of trees, wearing matted locks of hair, and lying on a mattress of kusha. The most merciful Lord very much lamented this. When Lord Bharat understood that Lord Ramchandra was returning to the capital, Ayodhya, he immediately took upon his own head Lord Ramchandra's wooden shoes and came out from his camp at Nandagram. Lord Bharat was accompanied by ministers, priests, and other respectable citizens, by professional musicians vibrating pleasing musical sounds, and by learned Brahmins loudly chanting Vedic hymns. Following in the procession were chariots drawn by beautiful horses with harnesses of golden rope. These chariots were decorated by flags with golden embroidery and by other flags of various sizes and patterns. There were soldiers bedecked with golden armor, servants bearing betel-nut, and many well-known and beautiful prostitutes. Many servants followed on foot, bearing an umbrella, whisks, different grades of precious jewels, and other paraphernalia befitting a royal reception. Accompanied in this way, Lord Bharat, his heart softened in ecstasy, and his eyes full of tears, approached Lord Ramchandra and fell at his lotus feet with great ecstatic love.
So that completes the reading for tonight. I see there's still another, I don't know, a few verses left. So perhaps we could finish this on Friday evening's reading at the same time. Any final thoughts on what we read, Rupanuga Prabhu?
No, it's just sort of a reflection today of the kind of hellish conditions the world is in. I remember Srila Prabhupada had a name for the greatest criminal of all time. Anybody remember that? Who he called the greatest criminal?
The greatest criminal of all time.
Yeah, of modern times. You know, not in the Kali Yuga. Really, the greatest criminal.
Mm.
In other words, not we don't find his name here, but Srila Prabhupada said there was the greatest criminal.
Does anyone want to try to guess, or do you remember? Anyone? At first, I thought Al Capone. I thought no, maybe Lenin, maybe Stalin, maybe Hitler. I don't know. Mao Zedong.
It's Stalin. It was Stalin.
Stalin. Okay. Because he killed 50 million of his own people, right?
Many people. He's the greatest criminal is his title. That's who he is.
The greatest criminal is
his title.
His title.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm a little slow. I'm not quite getting that.
Well, I'm saying that's his reward for his great accomplishments. He's now actually called by the pure devotee, by the world Acharya, as the greatest criminal.
I'm sure Mao Zedong isn't very far behind.
But he was because he had a great willpower. Srila Prabhupada described how when he was operated on for some problem in his stomach,
Right.
he refused to take any. Yes, he refused, and the physician was amazed. He wanted to see. I want to see what's giving me trouble in my stomach. So he stayed awake during the whole operation.
Wow.
Srila Prabhupada was giving him as an example of a materialistic person with great willpower.
Wow.
But he misused it, you see. He misused all that strength.
Srila Prabhupada referred to Adolf Hitler, didn't he, as a kind of Shakyavesh avatar, that he was empowered to give people their karma, right?
I have a number of quotes Srila Prabhupada mentioned about Hitler, but I don't find that one.
Okay. I thought it's in a purport in the 16th chapter, Divine Demoniac Nature, but I may be mistaken. Divija Garanga, did you have something you wanted to say, Prabhu? No.
Not particularly, actually, no. There was a few interesting points in the last couple of verses. I mean, I showed up very late. I've been so busy these days, I haven't been able to come to the Sangha most of the time, so I just squeaked in today, so I was happy to make it.
Thank
I
you.
was just noting in that one where Mandodari recognized Sita Devi's greatness based on the fact it's mentioned in the purport that the fact that she was such a chaste wife, even though she was chaste to Ravana, but she had that quality, she could recognize the greatness of Sita Devi.
It takes one to know one, in other words.
Like something like that, yeah. It's interesting qualification that even though she's chaste to Ravana, the chastity itself, the quality of chastity is powerful. It's very pure in a sense.
Gave her supernatural powers.
The other
Yes.
word was faithful. She was faithful to Rava.
Right.
Faithful, that's the better part of chastity. She was faithful, and that when a woman is faithful to her husband, she gains supernatural powers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Gandhari also had that because
Yeah.
she blindfolded herself when she married Dhritarashtra.
Yeah. Very difficult to have a
And
good
she actually even recommended that he not fight. She was actually arguing against his participating.
Right.
She was faithful, but still she was giving the argument, just like we read where the wives of Ravan were they're lamenting that he had to be such a bad person,
Yeah.
bring this upon himself.
I mean, he's so accomplished in so many ways, but it was just, he was nasty and cruel and stuff. But you can't be a significantly nasty person without a lot of qualities, abilities. And amazing that he was able to inspire the loyalty and chastity of others.
But it was
What
mostly based on strength, a material strength and fearfulness, intimidation. Who could dare challenge him?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He could certainly protect those who took shelter of him. He could certainly protect them.
People are feeling more intimidated these days by their governments more than ever before. Even in so-called democratic countries.
Well, it's funny when you say government, because nowadays, in the days of Ravana, government meant Ravana and, of course, his ministers, etc. When you say government nowadays, we think more in terms of like a corporate entity. No one person necessarily comes to mind. I don't particularly think of Justin Trudeau as a particularly heroic figure.
He's just a protege of Klaus Schwab.
I mean, certainly he must have some qualities to be in that position, but I wouldn't want to catch his reactions for being prime minister.
Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for coming and glorifying Lord Ramacandra tonight. We usually have Nectar of Instruction on Friday, and we're on verse number 7, which I believe is a verse that glorifies the holy name as being like sugar candy, rock candy when we have jaundice. We need to take it, even though it may seem a little bitter, get our health back. So thanks very much, everyone, for coming. 7:30, same time, Friday.
Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Our basis
Glory to you, Prabhupada.
Vanchakalpa Trubhischa, Sindhu Evacha, Patitanang Pavnebhyo,
Glory to you.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.